Hello, hello. My name's Cory Talaska, and this is going to be my first seat time car. So what I have behind me is a 04 330 Ci. I actually, if any of you follow me on social media, I used to have an E46 M3 that had a big Duck Club kit on it. It had these wheels with the KFs in the front. It was sweet. I thought I was going to drift that. I put SLR on it, a bunch of stuff. And then the S54 it didn't give me any issues, but I felt it. It was like that gut feeling that like, man, I don't know if this is a good idea to rip this car with like this engine and like without it being gone through and all this stuff. So I decided to post it up for sale. Really didn't take that long to sell. It took like 2 weeks. Some kid who just sold his Evo to start family, all that stuff, was like, yeah, I'll pick it back up. So boom, car sold, took that money, bought this thing down in Chicago. It has like no clutch in it, which it's already pulled out, but had like no clutch. We drove it back up from Chicago, got it for a pretty decent price, paid like $6 for this thing. And yeah, so now over the last couple months, it's kind of sat because just FD, blank canvas, the business stuff was just really busy. And then we're like, all right, we're gonna put the car together as fast as we possibly can within reason. So I kind of like gave myself like a 6 to 8 week time. We're like 3.5 weeks into that, so we're about halfway, and this is kind of where the car sits now. I just did decide to put like a Vortec blower on it, pick that up off Marketplace for super cheap, went through kind of like the engine without pulling it apart. I still have to, which the parts just came in from FCP Euro. Oil pan gasket, gonna do the oil pump nut. I got like an aluminum valve cover off Amazon, which are pretty sick. If you want to pick one up, just make sure they're not cracked. One of our friends had a few of them cracked. And just replaced all that. I am going to put these wheels back on it just because I want it to be stanced. Obviously, you see we got like the HM Aero kit, which I'm super stoked about. Big Duck Club overs, as usual again. There's a couple little things, like I have Huxley Motorsports canards, got his rear window lip, all this stuff. The car should be sweet, I'm really hoping. There's a few things that I don't have yet, like seats and whatnot, but time will come for that. It's pretty much just been a mad dash of trying to collect parts from, all my sponsors, like Condor pretty much got us hooked up with everything for this. SLR is gonna be all angle and stuff like that. Yellow Speed coils, they're sitting over there on the frame, but I got like the super lows, just with adjusted spring rate, so they still drift sick, but I can go low. On my M3, I had their Pro Drift coils, and they felt amazing, but I was max low. I couldn't go any lower, so I wanted a little bit of adjustment there. For the rear, I have just some cheap lower arms with then proper Fabworks upper arms. So then I should be able to kind of like just dial in that rear how I want it. I will eventually have to like rebuild some wheels for this to be perfect. I'm not doing the hub conversion yet, but that will happen. So right now I'm just running the thin, I forget the brand, but they're like the thinnest 5x114 adapters you can have, because I don't own any 5x120 wheels. My Pro car has been converted for a long time. We have spares of that, and then I bought the adapters for my M3. ACT set us up with a sick clutch that's going to go in this car. Pulled the stock one out, it was not super in good shape. So ACT, that's sitting over there. It does have the manual 6-speed, pretty hyped about that. I did like 5 years ago, I picked up a E46 M3, like whole rear subframe with the LSD, everything. And I've been carrying it around for me forever. So I decided to throw it into here. Because even though this car, like visually is pretty much rust free, there's a little bit of rust on the rear, the left rear, but that's kind of getting all cut out where my dad is doing cutting for the over fender. The rear end did not look, it was a little toasty. It was just all the hardware, every nut that I took off, like the rear end of this car, something that was underneath, I actually had used like a 1 mil smaller socket because the rust had literally just eaten away at the nut. So like a 14 was a 13, like a 17 was like a 16. It was Yeah, don't recommend. So I'm gonna replace all the hardware on that, all the hardware coming from FCP Euro and stuff like that. It's just super easy to get and replace. With E46s, the same thing as E36s, we need to reinforce some stuff. So in the back, I have just all reinforcement plates from Condor and a few other places. I had a collection of them from a long time ago. So pretty much Sam Holzman is welding all those in. I do have to drop the tank a little bit to get it in, but should be pretty solid. Luckily with that rear end, I did get a drive shaft as well. So I'm hoping that all just kind of like bolts in, meshes out, works out. Replacing the stock Guibo. Don't put in a poly Guibo, you will regret that. So brand new stock Guibo, new bushings and the knuckles in the rear end, just pretty much an entire refresh on like the steering, suspension, as much as I can do on the motor. And then just a bunch of like quality of life things. I deleted the DSC ABS box that's in there, kind of redoing all the brake lines, extended in the front, Chase Bay's inline hydro, which basically takes from the front to the back. I'm doing all AN lines. That'll go through bulkhead on the top of the trunk, down through, so we'll get rid of those, like they're pretty, again, some pretty toasty lines underneath, we'll get rid of those. New clutch line, that was a little questionable as well. Replace the slave, again, like the whole list. I'm gonna put in a whole list in like a forum or a build sheet at some point in time, but I'm really excited to do, like, there's so much going into this car just for it to like be a daily or just to drive down the road, like, but then just go drift for inexpensive. Drifting the Pro car is such an ordeal. Fuel, nitrous, not that we have to turn it on, but it's just the whole package is just a lot. And I want to hit as many events as I can. The year I drifted the most was like my first year, and then it's just tapered down ever since. And that's the whole reason why, like, I want to build one. I think everyone should build a seat time car. Most people, like, that drift at the FD level do. That they do have a seat time car. I know, Novak gets a ton of seat time. Like, there's all these guys who just get a ton of seat time just because they have another car. So that's what I'm doing. I didn't want to do the full base stock BMW, like M54. That's why I got the Vortec Charger with just I'm just putting the stock pulley on and everything, but I am tuning the whole thing on Link, and I'm putting an E85. So we are running Link. I'm getting a Link Fury X, a jumper harness to the E46, so we're not doing like a full harness swap, and then I'm gonna get like a digital dash. I'm just gonna go for that right away and then try to like make sure I can just monitor everything, customize it, with a GPS module so I can just track everything. I'm really excited about that, just to make everything as like hone as simple as possible. By getting the Link, I don't have to go through some stock BME tuner. Brendan, my tuner, Brendan Greaves, and like Pro Driver, he can tune it. He's been like just dialing in all the BMW stuff. He knows how Vanos wants to work a lot. So I'm really hoping, like, I have a friend, Troy Kuhn, with a similar car. Everything that you can possibly think of is done to it in the stock sense. He's got the Vortec kit on it, but it's stock DME tuned, and he's running pump gas. So I'm really curious to see what the difference is, like just me putting Beachworks 1200cc injectors in, running E85, running the same supercharger kit, but then having it on Link and then Brendan tuning it. I'm curious what more we can get out of it with that, especially since the main issue for like Troy seems to be heat. So I'm curious if like how everything fleshes out, if we'll be able to maybe put a smaller pulley on it and like just kind of push the stock internals. Cory Misko's making like 500 wheel on an unopened junkyard M54 with like a turbo. Obviously we're not running an intercooler and stuff like that, but that stuff can be easily added. So that's definitely the dream for sure. So there will be many more videos kind of coming out. I haven't really filmed too much getting up to this point because we've just kind of been thrashing and like busy. It's been like weird nights, but I want to do that more. So this is kind of like a recap up to what the point we are, and then I'll try to document what I can from here. I will say the car is going to stay like this color-wise, with the stock gray and then like just all the kit being like white and like primered over the Bondo because we had to put the kit back together. It's going to stay like that for now, because the dream is over winter, Jelani, my spotter and good friend, is going to maybe paint the car. I'm still dreaming about colors. If you guys have any ideas, let me know in the comments, but I'm definitely kind of pushing a little bit towards like creating a team with a few people. I would love to match. I would love for stuff to be cool. And then also, this is going to be like the flagship car for this clothing brand that I want to make. I made some clothes for it a long time ago when I was like 17, 18, and it was all just kind of like an internal thing. But I really want to kind of like do more with that, especially since I own like a print shop. We make apparel now, so it's much more feasible for me to do. So now you're updated. Thank you for sitting through this little talk session, but hopefully I'll keep coming out with some more content soon, both FD and the Seat Time car stuff. But right on, thanks.